Yeah, no, that's correct. Yeah, I grew up in southwestern Colorado,
Okay.
Nucla, super small little town down near Montrose, Telluride, down in the San Juans.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for doing this, man. And nice to meet you, by the way. We've talked several times online, but nice to finally meet you. And Mount Everest, dude. Like Mount Everest is the next adventure. So I got to hear about this. How did this all start?
Yeah, man. Yeah, first, thanks for having me on. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Great meeting you as well. Uh, I guess Everest really started back in 2011. Um, I was doing some work, civilian contracting overseas, and a buddy of mine decided to take a vacation. We went to Tanzania. So we did a safari, and then we climbed Kilimanjaro. We climbed Kili, and that was the first time being up high elevation. Kili is not a technical climb by any means; it's a trek, but you're still getting up over 19,000 feet. And for being away from Colorado for so long, getting back into the mountains, getting up to high elevation, it just kind of sparked this fire in me, I guess. Like, man, like I've always had this passion for the mountains, and this is my first time to really climb, kind of get up high, and it hooked me. It
Nice.
really did. And then kind of fast forward a few years, uh, military thing, deployments, what have you. 2018 December, I ended up taking my wife Michelle. Her and I went to Nepal and we did the Everest Base Camp trek.
Oh, cool.
And dude, I'll tell you, like growing up in Colorado, you're absolutely spoiled. But once you get into Nepal and then you start working your way up to Namche and you get up into the Khumbu, it's absolutely incredible. Like it really will change your life, change mine for sure. And it's just everything there is so big. The relief was unbelievable. You're at Namche Bazaar at 11.2, looking down into the bottom of the valley, which is 6,000 feet. And then you're looking up at 28,000 feet, is incredible. So after that trip, it, it set it in stone for me, made the decision, had to get back to Colorado, get back into the mountains. And then at that point, I knew at some point in my life, I would have to make the attempt to get back to actually do the climb. And it's a weird roundabout story how it actually came to happen,
Mhm.
but it did, and just got invited on a trip, and got to go for it, man. Like
Yeah,
kind of a once in a lifetime thing.
totally, totally. Well, I'm envious, man. I mean, you've already been out there once, and it sounds like this project has been in the works for a long time, since 2011. So, congrats, man. It's all coming together, it sounds like. So when you were out there originally and made it up to base camp, was this pre ultra running for you? Was this before you had started doing any running, or how did this all come together in your life with running and whatnot?
So this was pretty early on. So like I said, this was December 2018. I finally ran my first ultra the fall of 2015. I
Okay.
did a 50K.
Okay.
I think it was 2 weeks after that, I did my first 100K. And then 2016, I went for Grindstone 100. Got to mile 82, and I ended up, I don't know if I chipped a bone on the outside of my ankle or what, but I ended up doing the string crossing, hit my foot strike weird. And instead of supinating, rolling your ankle like you typically do, it pronated. But it was such a stabbing pain that I ended up limping for about 15 miles to the last aid station I made it to, which is mile 82, and ended up dropping there. I was in a boot for a few weeks after that, and then went back in 2017 and got it done. So
Okay.
I guess by EBC, I had, 4 or 5 ultras under my belt.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And the military was pre all of this, right? I guess we're going backwards on the timeline, but did you join the military like right out of high school, or how did that all fit in?
Pretty close. So I graduated high school. I'm 38, so
Okay.
I'm not a young dude by any means. But I graduated high school in 2001, and then I ended up going to boot camp. I started the Marine Corps first. I went to boot camp in February of 2003.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Why the military? Why the Marines? And this is something you're still active with, and I'm assuming passionate about. I'm curious, like, why you decided the Marines, and now I believe you're with the Army Special Forces, the Green Beret. What's that whole story? How did that all start out?
Yeah. So growing up, like I said, growing up in Nucla, super small town, farming community, and kind of when you think of small town, rural America, it has all of the best qualities that you'd imagine out of that, right? Like everybody knows everybody, generations of families grew up, know each other, what have you. So very blue collar, hardworking, take care of your neighbor kind of community. And growing up with my dad, we were always in the mountains, right? We're always hunting, fishing, hiking. We have mountain property, so we're always in the mountains. And I remember, it's kind of funny, but I remember as a junior in high school, and I got a pamphlet in the mail, recruiting pamphlet. And I started reading this stuff on the Marine Corps, and it just talked about all this stuff, being outside and obviously shooting guns, and just sounded super adventurous, and challenging and hard. And growing up, I didn't have a lot of military influence, but the one thing I always heard was the Marines are the hardest branch. The Marine Corps is the hardest branch, boot camp, so challenging, whatever. So I always had this weird, just kind of draw and pull towards it. So that was kind of the stimulus, I guess, to go for the hardest, the most challenging, So went in the Marine Corps 2003. I went in, I was a reserve. So I was in the Marine Corps until 2009, a couple deployments there. Got out for a couple years, did some stuff, like I said, with the civilian contracting side there. I also, in that time period, went to school. At that time, I was exercise science major, did a couple years there, back and forth. And then in 2012, I enlisted in the Army to, try to pursue, the Special Forces, the Green Berets.
Got it. What's it like being in the Special Forces? I've heard all the stories. I've read all the books. The Marcus Luttrells, the David Goggins, I've heard all the names. What's it like for you? What's been your personal experience?
So I like that you mentioned two SEALs, because every SEAL has a book.
Yeah,
No,
right.
just kidding. Yeah, no, SEALs are awesome. We have this banter back and forth, right? Just like any high level team or any competitive group there. But I've worked with a lot of SEALs, both downrange and what I'm doing now, as a mountaineer here, and they're incredible guys. For any branch to for an individual to make it to that special operations level, that top level within that branch, you have to have very intelligent, very dedicated, very driven personnel, and that's the way it is across the branches. And so for us in particular, it's great, man. I had, after my time in the Marine Corps, I had this kind of like question in the back of my mind, or maybe not so much a regret, but it's just, man, could I have made it? Because you always, when you're doing something, you're constantly asking, well, how far can I go? Is this it for me? Like, am I content and am I happy? Is this where I want to stay? And if so, cool, that's great. But if you're questioning that, at some point, I found with me anyway, like, you have to pull that trigger and go for it. And so that's where I was. And actually what happened was, while I was contracting, a lot of my buddies on my team there were prior SF dudes. And so we just started talking. I'm like, dang, man, I kind of wish I would have tried. I wish I would have went for it when I was younger. And they're like, hey, dude, they have this program. You can still re-enlist. You can still give it a go. So I ended up, after I finished my last contract, re-enlisted and and kind of pull the trigger on that. And then making it to the teams, it's a long, call it 2-year process. Plus, if you make it, clean through everything, you don't recycle or get dropped or what have you. But once you get to the teams, because everybody has tried so hard to get there, everybody's so dedicated to their job, you have a very, very tight-knit community, a very tight team. And it's like that with the guys on the team. It's like that with families, having team parties, getting everybody involved, because you have 12 individuals on a ODA, on a detachment, and you're gone a lot of the year. You're away from home. So that support mechanism, that structure, that family, that extends with everybody as well.
Wow. Yeah. Explain contracting for anybody listening. Like, I think I kind of know what it is, but I'm picturing like bodyguarding high level officials and maybe shooting bad guys. Like, what does that consist of?
Yeah, it's not all like, I don't know, like 13 hours or what you see, in the movies. It's not all like that, right? So very generally speaking, you could think of any job, any MOS that's within the military, and there's a civilian equivalent to do that, right? To work in the contracting world. A lot of guys with our background will naturally tend to pursue more of the personal protection, bodyguarding type of thing, and that's what I did while I was overseas. Yeah.
Okay. Was that fun? Was that rewarding? Like, compare that to your military career.
Okay, so it was a great experience, right? Definitely a good job. The main reason for me going into it, I had a hard time after I got back from my last deployment with the Marine Corps and left from that. Just, I don't want to say like necessarily maybe survivor's guilt, or I just had this kind of regret that I wasn't still doing the job. I wasn't still serving my country. I was no longer doing something bigger than myself, kind of thing. And I was doing well with my personal day-to-day life, but I wasn't fulfilled. So naturally, what's the next best thing? And contracting was an option. So it gave me the opportunity to be back on a team, to serve a purpose, still serve my country, and kind of do those things. But you kind of realize, and I don't know now, I mean, that was a long time ago. So I was contracting 2009, 2010. All right. So at that time, things were still pretty hectic, especially where I was, and contractors as a whole didn't always have the best image, I guess. And it kind of, you got the feeling, especially even the people we were protecting, we're just guns for hire, if that makes sense.
Yep.
We're not soldiers anymore.
Sure.
We're not serving the military. We were viewed as, hey, these guys are gunslingers. They get paid a lot of money, and that's all that's kind of their only purpose. So there's definitely, good camaraderie, kind of a good mission set, but we had a negative aspect to that as well. And even at times, you talked about, bad guys and stuff like that. There were times, when we would have situations, an IED or some sort of small arms fire attack. There's one time coming into a base with our personnel we were protecting, and we got blown up by an IED. Well, it was so close to the space we were trying to enter that they locked the base down and they wouldn't let us in. So they blocked us off outside of the base, and we were sitting there for 30 minutes on a sat phone to the embassy trying to get this base to allow us in so we could get in and take care of what we needed to take care of with vehicles and what have you. So it was just a different experience all around, and which really, again, led me to the realization, like, I'm not going to have what I had for self-fulfillment in the Marine Corps unless I go back into the military and I pursue this passion that I've had for a very long time, and see if I can make it in that community.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Have you found that sense of fulfillment, that sense of purpose now that you're back with the special forces, the Green Berets?
I have. I love what I do. You know, my time on the team, doing deployments, being around the guys, training constantly, working towards, preparing for deployment or whatever our mission set is. And then with my job now, especially being a mountaineering instructor here in Colorado, it's absolutely fulfilling, only because it is so critical and so technical that, every instructor that I work with, obviously we're all of the instructor cadre here, we're all Green Berets. And it's one of these environments, like, you have to want to be here. There's some jobs in the military, they'll just kind of, pick and choose, or they'll put out a list, a levy, and like, we need these 10 guys to come here and work at this schoolhouse. Where we're at with what we do, you cannot do that.
Right.
We have to have mountain guys that do this on their own, guys that are passionate about it, and guys that want to push their skill set as far as they can, because it's not only going to keep them safe and alive in the mountains, but we're going to teach these techniques that at the end of the day will, enable our students to go back and teach their teams and what have you, safe and proper techniques in the mountains.
Okay. Okay. Do the Green Berets have an equivalent of the Navy SEALs Hell Week?
So the Green Berets, we have our selection process, right? So it's SFAS, Special Forces Assessment and Selection. When I went through, it was 4 weeks long.
Okay.
So that would be the most comparable, like, to the SEALs BUDS. The BUDS course is 6 months long, and then obviously you have the notorious Hell Week, right? So for us, it's SFAS, 4 weeks long, and it's just a plethora of different gated, tested events. All are physical, mental, cognitive, psychological, and it's just this constant round robin of testing and assessing through the entire 4-week evolution.
Was that pretty stressful? Was that a big deal in your life?
It was a huge deal. Yeah, because
Sure.
Going back to the contracting thing, you make a lot of money contracting, right?
Sure.
Like, I don't know how or why, but I was able to make over 200K with what I was doing contracting. Okay. So now to walk away from that and to come back into the military to make much less,
right,
in an attempt to hopefully make it to this, very high level, within special operations, knowing that the pass rate, the successful, pass rate for any soldier to make it through selection and the Q course and eventually make it to the teams is very low, right? You're looking at a, selection, probably a 40% attrition rate. And then once you get past selection for the special forces qualification course, my class day one started with, I think it was like 430 students. And after the year and a half of that qualification course, there's 27 of us that had gone through without failing anything. So It's incredibly challenging, right? It's a very long process. So prepping for selection, I took that very seriously. I finished my contract in December of 2010. I ended up going to selection spring of 2012, and coming in the way I did, I had to wait obviously a while for a selection date, but this entire time period was focused on not only physical training, but I think with myself, the one of the most important components is the psychological. Like, it's an entire whole encompassing dedication to your objective. So physical training, reading every book I could get my hands on, the mental toughness, the fortitude aspect, and just all encompassing, dedicated to one objective. And that was getting to selection and hopefully getting selected.
Damn. So you sort of took a big gamble with your life, really. You were making decent money, but it wasn't fulfilling to you. Um, like, like what exactly were you looking for? In terms of fulfillment, or in terms of career fulfillment, or whatever it was, when you were looking at the Green Berets and looking to get into this thing, you're looking to, you're going to be making a lot less money. Like, what specifically were you looking for? I'm just trying to picture this.
I think specific short answer is serving something bigger than myself.
Oh, okay.
And that's very short answer, right? When I was younger, I always thought that success or fulfillment or happiness had a monetary, value to it. And, for some reason, I think I was pretty young, but I was like, man, if I could ever in my life make 100K a year, I'll be successful, I'll be happy, I'll be making money. Cool. And then I started contracting, right? Talked through that. And that was, and I say it was such a good experience because I learned so much from it, so much value, so much about myself, that monetary means nothing to me. Like, monetary value, nothing. If I have, if I'm financially stable enough to live comfortably, to have a home, put food on the table, take care of, Michelle, what have you, and I'm good, that's all I need. I don't need anything more than that. Like, for me, happiness, comes from serving something bigger than myself and just having that sense of fulfillment. And I've tried to think about this quite a few times, honestly. And I think the only thing I can really go back to is I have 3 younger sisters, right? So I grew up big brother, protective, taking care of my sisters, and always wanting to take care of my family. And so I kind of think my childhood, my upbringing kind of molded me into that sense, and I've noticed that not just professionally with the military, but things I do on my own, whether it's ultra running or what have you. I think back on significant experiences in my life or events that have changed and molded where I am. And none of them have to do with me. They have to do with the experiences and sharing with other people. Who else was there with me? Who else got to share that experience? And I can't, tell you exactly why, but that's just kind of what it is, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's a typical day look like for you? You said you're a mountaineering instructor. Are you like actively working every day, or what does that typically look like?
Yeah, so it's pretty busy. We run 2 courses during the summer, and then 1 course during the winter. So our summer courses, we will take students that some of them have rock climbed before, some of them never have, but we will bring them in. We'll do 1 week of an assessment, and then we go straight to the rock. So we're teaching, traditional pro placement, anchor building, rock climbing, and we'll work all the way through into the alpine, and then we'll get up into high alpine, 14,000 feet, multi-day objectives. And each of these summer courses are 7 weeks long. So before each 7-week course, we will have a 7-week train up for the instructor cadre to go through the entire course, refresh, make sure we're on top of our game, and then we do the course. We have a break, do that again, and then we do the same in the winter, naturally in the snow in a winter environment. And then in our off time between courses, we're constantly training. We have to be in the environment as instructor cadre. So we have to be in the rock, we have to be in the alpine, especially now, we're kind of finally coming into a little snow, but during the winter, avalanche conditions in Colorado, like this snowpack, you have to be in the terrain, constantly studying it, constantly analyzing it, because it's dangerous. We have the most dangerous snowpack in the country, right? So it's busy. And trying to pair that with running and training for my races and events is great because I'm constantly moving in the mountains, right? I'm constantly getting miles on my feet. I'm constantly getting burnt in one way or the other.
Sure.
But it can be challenging because a lot of my runs, to still get in my base mileage that I need, I've done runs at 3 o'clock in the morning, every evening for my second workout. I'm out of the day, come back, do my workout, and then do my second set of low intensity cardio. So it's definitely intensive and busy, but it really helps keep me engaged and good overall fitness for what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you skiing and snowshoeing and climbing, and you're doing everything in the mountains?
We don't do so much snowshoeing anymore, thankfully. We do a lot of skiing. So everything that we're set up, we're on AT bindings, touring setups.
Yep.
So yeah, so the same kind of thing that I mentioned, like with summer, we'll do the same thing with winter. We'll get students, maybe they've skied before, maybe they haven't. And we'll spend the first 2.5 weeks teaching them how to ski.
Okay.
And then we have a pretty rigorous ski exam that they have to pass, because as soon as they pass this ski test, we move straight into the backcountry. So we give our students, a course that's very similar to that of like an area recreational 1 course. We do single and multi-burial recovery drills. And we go straight in to the backcountry doing tours. And then we'll go into the Alpine, we'll summit 13 and 14,000 foot peaks in the winter. And then we'll do overnight bivouacking and the whole thing. So in that course, it's really a fire hose approach where we have a lot of material that we have to cover in a short period of time. And to be honest with you, the only reason we can achieve this in any of these courses is because of the skill set and the aptitude and the quality of soldier, that we get, or personnel that we get coming through our course, because our course is open to all special operations. So we get, every branch can come through, but the only reason we're able to condense it into such a short period is because every student we have come through is incredibly intelligent. They're flexible, they can adapt very quickly, and they can learn very quickly.
They're already high level by the time they get to you guys.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for your service, man. And I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And it sounds like something that you're passionate about and something that you truly enjoy too. You found a job that really works for you, that you fit into. So hats off, man. So you said that your training with your buddies that you work with is a pretty tight knit community. Like, what sort of training are you guys doing? Like, I'm always interested in the physical aspect of the military. Like, what are these guys doing that we're not doing? Is it like CrossFit specific, or are you guys practicing martial arts, or is it strictly just like weights, cardio? Like, I always want to ask, like, who's the baddest dude out there that but I don't know how to ask that question in like a cool way. So like,
yeah.
who are you training with, and like, what are you seeing out there? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. So for example, like in the Marine Corps, as far as our physical fitness training, everybody had to do the same thing. Everybody is regimented, no matter what that was, whether it was a 3-mile run or lifting weights, whatever, everybody had to do the same thing. It was very structured, right? Marine Corps, that's structured, that's disciplined to a T.
Right.
On the teams, we definitely have, there's days where you may have team workouts, but I think one of the things that make the ODAs so successful is that you have the ability to be flexible. So if one guy is just a fast twitch powerhouse moving weight in the gym, then cool, he can lift weights. That's his niche. That's what he's good at. That's what he's passionate about. If you have another guy who is an endurance guy, he loves to run, hey, go do that, And while we may have workouts where we bring everybody together to have that camaraderie, like maybe we'll go do an obstacle course or something like that, you have the flexibility to do your own thing. Each guy can be his own guy, right? One of the biggest things, especially within SF, is we don't, there's no room for yes men, right? Like we want guys who are confident in themselves, type A driven, motivated, and that can follow, motivate themselves, follow their own passion. We allow that flexibility, and that's why we're so effective. And part of the reason why we're so effective in what we do. And I don't know, like, that's a good question. It's pretty cool. As far as just like the baddest dude, and
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, man, like I have met and worked with some incredible athletes, top level athletes. I actually went through part of the Q course with a former NFL running back, right, who tried coming through. So literally, we have athletes at the very professional level, Division I athletes all day long, that somehow they find their way into this community. And it's so cool to just sit back when you see one of those individuals and you're just like, damn, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like that it's a stud. Yeah.
Wow. Cool, man. Well, and so I'm just picturing like you're the endurance guy on the team, right? Is that kind of your specialty, or are you also like into other forms of athletics?
I don't know.
You're an ultra runner in your spare time, so I'm assuming you're just like the endurance guy on the team.
Yeah, like I guess, well, while I was on the team, yeah, I definitely always ran, right, and trying to do races, whatever. But there were guys on my team that were faster than me for sure. Like we had one of the dudes on my team was a semi-pro soccer player. There's no way I'm catching that dude in a 5-mile run, right? Like no, there's no way. I don't know. I don't think he'd ever run 100 with me, but
right. He's not going to catch you on a 240-mile run.
Yeah. But the way I've always, and I actually like, I haven't always been a runner by any stretch of the imagination. I used to hate running. Especially when I was younger, I was always a lifter. I was always trying to push natural bodybuilding, and like my dream pinnacle achievement for, gosh, about 10 years was to one day do a natural bodybuilding competition.
Okay.
And then I did that in 2009. So I had a lifting background before I came into this. And so I think where I'm at now and where I was on the team, like my view of the baddest dude was the all around athlete, a dude who may not be the fastest or the most like endurance in climb. He may not be lifting the most weight in the gym, but who's that one guy that can incorporate everything and outperform, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that was always kind of a goal for you, is to sort of be that well-rounded guy that's versatile with lifting weights, with pull-ups, push-ups, and also out on the trails.
Yeah. I think if I were to talk about like my very inner personal goals when I was on the team was to be the best all around. Like you want to be that guy that's going to outlift your buddies, but you also want to be that guy when we get on the trails or we have to throw 60 pounds on our back and go for, 10, 15, 20 miles, that you're up front constantly, leading by example and out in front of your guys. Like and that's what's another thing that's just awesome about that environment. Just because everybody is so competitive. And that's one thing with a detachment, like you can be fired. Like nowhere else really in the military can you be fired from your job and go away. But on detachments, you can. And so every day is kind of a new interview. It's proving yourself to your guys. It's proving that you want to be there, that you deserve to be there. So everyone there is constantly striving to perform at their best. And it just creates this like positive and motivating atmosphere that you want to push yourself to keep up with your buddies and do the best you can, because you don't want to let anybody down.
Yeah, for sure. You seem to me like a guy that has like high self expectations and high morals. Do you have like a code that you live by, or like, I don't know, some sort of a warrior code or something, or like a mantra that you follow, or some tenets in your life that you stand up with, or
Um, I guess one thing for me, first and foremost, is do for others before myself. And then when I was going through boot camp, Marine Corps, I learned some principles, key principles that I've absolutely, always tried to aspire to live up to. And that's always lead by example, lead from the front, and take care of your men before you take care of yourself.
mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of been my, I guess, overall philosophy, and kind of what I, like I said, what I've tried to live up to. And to be honest with you, this is getting pretty deep. I've never actually told anybody that before, but yeah, it is. And I'm sure you've talked to a bunch of other guys, they have the same thing, just because a lot of the guys that I have the fortune to work with are very like-minded and taking care of each other.
For sure. Yeah. How does this sort of lifestyle and this code of honor that you live by like bleed over into the rest of your life? You said that you're married to Michelle, you said, I think. And how long have you guys been married? Has she been around since the contracting days? And what's the rest of your life like outside of the military and running?
Yeah, so Michelle and I, we got married in 2014, and we actually met right after I finished contracting. It was while I was come back home, and believe it or not, we actually we actually met in Portland, Oregon, while we were waiting in line for packet pickup to a Spartan race.
No way.
Yeah, dude, I'll tell you, like, Michelle, she's a phenomenal human being. That girl, like, deserves all the credit. She's my rock. She's my stability, and the things that I've put her through, and the many ways that she supported me in all my silly endeavors, both with my job and then, my personal life. Like, she's incredible. We met in line for packet pickup at a Spartan race. Our first date was after the race the next day. Second date, we met in Park City, Utah for a weekend. And our third date, she agreed to fly to Pamplona, Spain, and meet myself and my buddies while we were at the beginning of a Euro trip that we had planned. And for this girl, we talk, like, this is the Big Things podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about doing big things. Michelle's background, she's grew up in the Bay Area, went to U of O. She's a fanatic Duck fan, and she's a school teacher. She's an elementary school teacher. And then to meet me, some, small town redneck country boy who at the time was going pretty crazy and pretty hard, and to just be like, yeah, cool, I'm down. Like, let's go do this.
Right.
Yeah. And she's been like that, since I've known her. She's incredible. That, you brought up Moab. There's no way I could have done the things that I've been able to do without her. No question.
As a crew or a pacer, or like, what did she do for you?
So I've been to Moab twice. So the first year, yep. So the first year I DNF'd. I stress fractured my left foot at mile 102. And then I ended up dropping at wind whistle at 153. Michelle, she wasn't able to come down. She had to work. But she ended up doing on a whim, 8-hour drive from here in Divide to Moab just to meet me at Shade Mountain. So halfway of mile 120, just to meet me and give me her support and give me a hug. And then from there, I went on my way. And then she had to turn around and drive right back home. Wow. And then this year, she took time off. she came out, and I had Michelle, I had my dad, his wife, my sister, I had my family there, and they were my crew for this year's Moab. Last year I did a solo, and then family came out to see me. But this year they came out, they were my crew. And then Michelle, she ended up pacing me for the last section from Porcupine Rim to the finish. So 18 miles in the dark. I think we started that section at just after midnight and then finished at about 5:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with Moab, you DNF'd it, but then I'm guessing that left something unresolved in your head and you had to go back and finish it. I mean, you could have done Bigfoot, or you could have done Tahoe, or one of the other races. Was that like rewarding to finally go back and put your stamp of finality onto that race, or what was that like?
Yeah, it absolutely was. So when I DNF'd Moab last year, during the event, I had my phone airplane mode, right? Save battery, and so I could have my guide and my maps going, what have you. And so I'm doing the race, and during the race competition, you're just focused on you and what you're doing, and I really didn't think much of it. So I dropped from the race, get back into town, and I get service again, and my phone blows up from friends, people who follow me on Instagram, all of my teammates and prior service buddies who were spread out all over the globe. They were following me on the tracker that Destination does, right, for the event. And they had started all these groups and pages and what have you. And I saw that they were tracking me and supporting me the entire way. And I'll tell you, man, like that put me into a spiral of depression that I've only had a few times. It hit me hard. It's one thing to DNF, right? You fail yourself, you let yourself down, and what have you. A lot of people experience that. But to have the feeling that I let everybody down, I let myself down, my family down, Michelle, all of my mates, it was heavy. It hit me hard. And what ended up happening is I got back to my hotel that night, and I was in a really dark place for sure. And I'm just like, I knew it was going to haunt me. I knew it was going to hit me hard. So I had to think of a way to get out of this, to get out of my head. And the biggest draw that I have to running these events is a community. The ultra community that we have is incredible. Everybody is so positive. There's so much stoke and just this like vibe, like just great people that encompass the ultra community. So I sent an email to not the race director, a manager, I guess, or the head aid station manager. And I was like, hey, I'm this guy. I just dropped, but I'm staying the night in Moab. Do you need help at any of the aid stations tomorrow? And sure enough, she responded, let me know, like, yep, we could definitely use you up at Geyser Pass, to help volunteer and support. And so I did this because I knew, like, putting myself back around other runners and other individuals within this community would help pull myself out of this deep and dark place that I was in, and help me start kind of moving forward and looking ahead. So sure enough, I go to Geyser the next day and work in the aid station. And I hope she doesn't get mad at me, but I'm going to call her out. Julie, an incredible, incredible person. She ends up walking up and we start talking. And naturally, this is last year during COVID, right? So everyone has their mask on. She didn't recognize me. She's like, hey, what's going on? What happened? So I tell her about my foot, and my ankle, these problems I have, why I dropped. And then she sees me lift up my mask, and I used to dip chewing tobacco, right? And she sees me spit. She's like, you're the dip guy. Dude, what happened? You came in looking so strong. I hoped you were going to make it. So we ended up kind of forming this friendship. And God, Julie, she's incredible, man. So we become friends. We keep chatting. Well, Julie, she texts me, I want to say it was November. Uh, and she's like, hey, my husband and I, we do this thing every year and we gift a race to a runner that we think is deserving. Her and her husband got me into Moab this year.
No
They're
way.
the reasons. Yeah. They're the
Wow.
reasons why I did it, man. And dude, it like, not kidding, like it brought a tear to my eye. I mean, because Moab's a $1,400 race, right?
Right.
Like it's a
Right.
big race and justifiably so. Like Destination crushes that event. It is incredible. But a 240-mile loop, the logistical support needed for that, right, is huge.
Cost some dough.
So she gifted me that race. So for the 10 months coming up into this Moab, I was absolutely dead focused. I don't particularly enjoy running on a treadmill, but bought a treadmill, and it's just like I have to be absolutely all in every opportunity I get to train, to log miles, whatever. This year's a no fail event. I can't, I have so many people that are supporting me and behind me. There's no way I can risk letting them down again. So that was kind of my mindset coming into this Moab. Yeah.
How did your training differ from one year to the next with Moab? I mean, the first time you didn't finish because of an injury, and that's legit. Nobody faults you for that. If you're injured, you should drop out if it's going to cause long-term damage. But did your training change at all? Like, did you ramp things up more? Were you running bigger miles? What did that look like?
Yeah, I definitely more mileage, more consistent base mileage, and definitely a lot more, just I guess all encompassing, man. Like more mileage, more vert, even days that I knew we would have a big day in the mountain with work or what have you. If I had time, I could get miles in. I was doing it. A lot of my guys probably get frustrated with me because when we're moving in the mountains, I'm like, oh, cool. Well, here's an opportunity for fitness.
Yeah.
Let's go. And one thing that, and I did it last year as well, as far as just being very, very detailed with heart rate, right? With my
Mhm.
my intensity during the event. And this year with Moab, I was able to I came in about 10 pounds lighter. And I was very, very on my goal heart rate, staying very low, zone 2 for me. My ceiling was 140 beats a minute. And that was it. No question. I uphill, downhill, flat, didn't matter.
This is during the
Um,
race, right?
yep.
Okay.
Yep. This is during the event.
Yep.
Um, and I just stayed with it. And, this year I moved quite a bit quicker than I did last year. I hit 50 miles this year at, I think it was just under 10 hours. And then I ended up taking off my first 100 at about 11 hours, I guess. But it was a big, big mental battle as well, because I had to be sure that I took absolutely every learning experience, every mistake that I made from last year's event and, put that to use and corrected it this year. So even, this year I finished, great. There were definitely some, I still definitely made mistakes and I definitely have identified some points where I could have saved time and, what have you, or been more efficient throughout that process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What was that race like? I mean, how deep did you have to dig? By the time Michelle was pacing you, was it pretty ugly, or did you make it through the race without any adversity?
No, I think everybody, and no matter the rate, there's going to be adversity. There's going to
Sure.
be the unexpected, right? That's kind of a big draw of it. Cool. Like what new problem am I going to have to solve this time? How
Right.
is it going to make me better for the next one? So this year, yeah, there definitely were some low points. I guess one of them came, Bridger Jack aid station is at mile, about 103, 104. And it was pretty cold. I came in there, and one of the things that I thought maybe played a part in me messing up my foot last year was just too much time on my feet. Like, I did not sleep. I just kind of kept moving, and I wasn't able to get a good base mileage before last year's event. So I was like, okay, cool. This year I will force myself to get off my feet. I'll force myself to try to take a nap, maybe try to recover, stay mentally sharp, but just kind of let my legs recover. So I tried to do this at Bridger Jack aid station, and it was whipping cold. Wind was coming through, probably low teen temps. So I was like, okay, I'm going to force myself, try to sleep for 30 minutes. So I laid on a cot and couldn't sleep, and I just got really, really cold. So I get up and I start moving, and for whatever reason, again, my left ankle, on the outside, it was just this stabbing pain. I couldn't run. I would walk and I'd have to put my weight on my pulse, and I'm like, what the heck? And so I was super frustrated, but I knew in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, I came into Bridger Jack fine. I had no issues. Right now, yep, something's going on, but I know it's not a significant injury. So from Bridger Jack to the halfway to the top of Shays, about 20 miles with about 4,000 feet of gain. In that section, that was a grind. That took me way too long. Couldn't run, couldn't hike, what have you. And I felt really bad for my family, because this is where they saw me last year, and I was limping on the same ankle, the same foot as I was last year. They see me in this dark place, and they're just like, oh no, here we go again. Right. So I get up, and by this time, when I topped out on Shay, I was tired. It's like, okay, I know I need to sleep now. So I crushed some food, took care of myself, hydrated, 30-minute nap. This time, got in my sleeping bag. My family crew was incredible. Like, I don't know how, but they were just like a fine-tuned machine. Everyone was doing something, just totally taking care of me. Passed out like a rock for 30 minutes. Woke up, changed clothes, did all my Vaseline stuff. And my test, my indicator for me, just kind of make sure everything's working right, is I'll go into a full squat, right? And I'll do a full squat because it engages and it stretches, every muscle group throughout my legs. And I was amazed that my hamstrings had released, my ankle didn't bother me. And as soon as I could do that full squat, it was a light switch. And from there, like, I hit that next section pretty good and was able to run 9-minute splits, no problem. And it was just cool, again, to go through, probably close to 8 hours of just being in a really dark place. Like, darn it, I'm here again. What the heck? To where it's like, no, like, you can come out of it. Like, if you just keep grinding, you stay with it. Like, nothing is over until you say it's over. So got through that, went through the night. I would say, and this is so silly, but the lowest point I had was after Pole Canyon. Pole Canyon is, I want to say it's around 187, 189. And I started chafing so bad. And, I kind of think of chafing like, oh, it's superficial, what have you. But when it's an open, kind of seeping, bloody wound all the way around, like, dude, it's debilitating.
Big time.
And I was in a dark place. I was doing everything I could think of, more Vaseline, changing layers, whatever. Nothing was fixing it. So I leave Pole Canyon, and I'm just slogging along. I'm grinding. I'm in a bar fight, dude. Like, yeah, I'm in a dark place. And here we go with this ultra community again, man. Another runner, Travis, and this pacer, they come up behind me, and like, hey man, great job, you're crushing it. And I don't know what it's like for you, but for me, if I'm in a dark place and I know I'm not doing well, and somebody says, dude, you look so strong, you're crushing it, I just want to be like, shut the F up. No, right. I don't. I suck right now. And that's where I was. But they were so cool. And so they passed and they went on ahead of me. And I just got internally really pissed at myself And I just told myself I wasn't going to lose sight of them. So I just started dragging behind him. I wasn't going to lose, like, no matter how much it hurt, no matter what was going on, stayed with him. A couple miles down the trail, I ended up catching up with him. And I'm like, hey, man, like, I know this is a race, like, whatever. And at this point, I had no idea what place I was in. I figured, dude, I'm probably like mid 20s, 30, like, I don't even care. I'm just trying to make it to the next aid station. I was like, hey, is it cool if I just tag along with you guys? Like, whatever. It's like, yeah, dude, absolutely. So I did. And we stayed together. And it worked out really well because a lot of people have talked about this section between Pole Canyon and then the old like Geyser Pass Road. And it was a 24-mile section, and there was only one water point, and then you hit the paved road, and it was, I don't know, man, it was like a 5 or 6 mile paved road climb, and it just crushed people. And it was miserable. But so we're doing this together, and his pacer, he's like, hey man, do you know what place you're in? I'm like, no, like, I don't even want to know. He's like, dude, you're in 8th place. I was like, no, there's no way. Like, maybe someone told you that yesterday or something. He's like, no, I'm on the tracker right now. Like, we're in 8th to 9th place. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we're going along. Travis and I are talking, and we've logged 24 miles to this point together. And we kind of had this mutual thing, like, dude, let's just keep this going to the finish. Because we noticed, like, once we started moving, Travis and I, like, our paces were very similar anyway. When we would have a downhill section, we would open up our legs or we would climb. It's like, we're both moving at the same pace. Like, let's just finish this together and keep each other going. I'm like, heck yeah, absolutely. And as we're going, I told him, I was like, hey man, like, I just got to tell you, priority one for me is finishing this race with Michelle, and I didn't mention the race starts on Michelle's birthday. So that's another thing. Okay. Another, like, her amazing commitment to me is 2 years in a row. Oh, Jason's going to go for the 240 on Michelle's birthday. Yeah, that happened. So I tell Travis, like, hey man, priority one, I have to finish with my wife. He's like, dude, I made the same promise to my wife. Like, no matter what, we're finishing together. And I'll tell you, like, to be able to keep moving with him and get to Porcupine and see both of our wives waiting for us, and then all 4 of us finish that event together.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that made the race. That's my finish. That's totally my story. That's my accomplishment, is all of us staying true to what we initially set out to do, and to finish with our significant others is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, man. So tell us about this upcoming project, Mount Everest, early 2022. What are things looking like from now? Like where you are right now? Are you just planning like the logistics? Are you training in any sort of capacity, or how's that going?
Yeah, so definitely planning is heavy, right? I am doing it with the guide company. So the way this came about, after last year's Moab, I logged quite a few miles with my buddy Zach, and we ended up talking, messaging each other after. He's like, hey man, I've got this idea, blah blah blah, invited me, boom. So we've been planning this since last November. So did some research, a lot of research, found this guide company, we've got that set up. And so right now, everything is set in place. The biggest portion that I'm working now, which is so far out of my comfort zone, but it is, trying to bring awareness to Green Beret Racing, right? The nonprofit that's supporting me and helping me to be able to go and attempt this climb, all in an effort to bring awareness to the organization. And the end goal is bring awareness to TBI, PTSD, unfortunately the suicide rates that we have within special forces now. So current time is really trying to learn my way through that process, so I don't let the organization down. And then as far as training goes, I'm doing everything I can. So I've got a race booked next month. I'm running Arches 50 mile with Mad Moose events again in Moab.
Moab.
And then, and then I'm finishing out their Triple Crown with Behind the Rocks Ultra in March.
Nice.
So I've got a couple races lined up, and then everything I'm doing here is, 2 workouts a day. My morning workout is strictly, cardio based. So that could be, 7-8 miles in the morning to a 4 to 5 hour workout. I'm fortunate enough, I live right here behind Pikes Peak. So like for me, the Crags Trailhead, 10 minutes away,
nice.
Doing workouts up to the summit, back, what have you. And then the afternoons I'll do, I have just a body weight circuit that I do, and then I'll do another 30 minutes to an hour of lower intensity cardio there. Typically it's just, walking on an incline, what have you, kind of recover for the next day.
Damn. You're going to be bulletproof, man. You're training like a freaking soldier, man. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's just one of those things, like the way I think kind of have to look at it, the way I look at it, like you get one shot at this thing,
Totally.
and, whether it goes or it doesn't, I can't be too timid or too afraid to not be vulnerable and not lay it all out there. Like my worst fear is, getting to base camp or starting this climb and then questioning, did I do enough? Or, oh man, what about that day that I took off? Or, like you can't do that. Not something, this magnitude, especially when you have, so many people that are supporting you and behind you and that you're trying to help out. So,
yeah. Don't a lot of like rich people and celebrities just basically pay for a guided trip up Everest, and people who aren't necessarily super fit get it done, right? Or am I wrong there?
Well, and I can't tell you that I know, right? This is my first attempt doing it, but there definitely is a view or a stigma with that climb that is very similar to that, to where you can have somebody who maybe does not have mountaineering experience, technical rope experience, technical climbing experience, but has the means to fund this trip and, kind of hang on to a rope or get supported, by a local Sherpa on the way up to get a selfie or, that kind of thing. It definitely has that stigma, which, is definitely unfortunate for sure. But I mean, that's the other thing with that region too, like that income, that capital for Nepal is incredible.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really glad to see, especially now, like in the last few years, like, 14 Peaks, right? Like that just came out on Netflix. Nim's book is incredible. But since he started that project, 2019, there's been a lot more light shed on that community and all of the work that the Sherpa do on that mountain, getting people successfully and safely up and down that mountain. So yeah, I'm sure there's people that go up and attempt to climb that maybe don't have the background to do it, and they could absolutely be a liability. But on the other hand, maybe they're paying over $100,000 that's going towards that community in that country, so I guess there's kind of multiple ways you could look at it.
Yeah. But you're training for this thing like it's the biggest ultra marathon ever. Like you're not going to leave any room for human error here, at least not on your part.
No, man, not as much as I can help it, both from the physical and the conditioning aspect. And then, and this is something I've thought about a lot. Like, I am a military dude and I am a mountaineer. And that mountain and that route, there are a lot of there are a lot of risks with it, a lot of objective hazards, from the Khumbu ice fall and avalanche and seracs, to weather coming in, all of these unforeseens. And so the physical aspect is absolutely a huge component, but I also have to be very technically sound. You know, it's one thing to look at a picture, watch a documentary and see clear skies, clear weather, and like, oh yeah, I could throw crampons on and walk up that snow slope and attach to the rope, but things are always different, you know, on the ground. And so that's why I say, like I said earlier, you know, I have to approach this from a very holistic perspective, you know, physical, psychological, emotional, and to make sure I'm completely well-rounded and devoted and prepared for it, you know.
Tell me a little bit more about Green Beret Racing. You know, you said that they're supporting people with PTSD. Is that anything that you've ever had personal experience with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, man. And, you know, obviously this is a very kind of uncomfortable, vulnerable, you know, topic. But yeah, I think people would be amazed if a lot of guys, a lot of, you know, individuals really opened up honestly. People are dealing with a lot of stuff, you know. PTSD, TBI is very, very common, not just from like singular significant events, but concussive events over time,
right.
Building up. And then the symptoms, the effects of TBI are very similarly, you know, related to that of PTSD and what have you. And, you know, I'll be completely honest, you know, I've been doing this for a little while, and it wasn't until a couple of months ago that I finally started talking to somebody. Like, I have, in my career, I have never voluntarily went to, you know, anything medical related, right? Like, we have a job to do. And for us, kind of our worst fear is being taken away from the team, not being able to go with your guys, not being able to, you know, go on mission or go down range. And so for so many of us, they're so committed to our mates and to the mission, like we just keep going on, right? And recently I ended up kind of hitting a point and finally started talking to some folks and kind of working through things. And then I ended up, very fortunately, Green Beret Racing reached out to me after Moab. And it's kind of one of those things, like, yeah, first when it happened, when they first reached out, I was like, man, yeah, that's awesome. Love the organization, love, you know, what they're trying to do, whatever. But it wasn't really until I started kind of working on myself and looking at the path I was kind of going down that it hit me like, yeah, like this is pretty heavy. And it's one of those things that, you know, I can't talk enough about the timing, but it just worked perfect for me. And what it is, what their, you know, Green Beret Racing, their mission set is, you know, they started with, you know, like dirt bikes and OHVs and, you know, four-wheelers, racers, this kind of thing. And they have this whole mechanized component, motorized component for racing, for dudes to get out and go race, pursue a passion. And Green Beret Racing will fund it for these individuals. So you could have a guy like, man, I've always wanted to learn how to ride a dirt bike. Well, they will provide the dirt bikes. They'll provide the uniforms, the jerseys, entry fees to races, parts, and they provide this for our guys so they don't have to worry about the funding, the monetary, you know, aspect of it. And so with me, you know, we're really trying to move towards this human performance side as well. And for me, it just happens to be, you know, like I do these ultra events and what have you. That's kind of my niche. And we're trying to open this up. And, you know, because for me, like I didn't realize, but for, you know, a very long time, like running that's been my outlet. you know, that's when I get into the mountains, especially when I get into the alpine, it's just like my mind is clear. I'm relaxed. I'm loving where I'm at. I have alpenglow. I see animals. And it's like all these other stressors and all this other noise just kind of goes away. And that's been my therapy. And now you couple that with this ultra community that we have, that's just constant positive, you know, influence. And it's really been healing for me, honestly, in every sense of that word. But what the other thing that's really cool about GBR is it is, you know, Green Beret racing, but they're really focused on no matter what your passion is, like what is something that you've always wanted to try to do? What is something you are interested in pursuing away from the military? And we're going to help you get there. We're going to support you, whatever you need to get to this place, to find this, you know, positive influence, this motivation, this drive again to keep, you know, to keep our mates motivated and moving forward.
Yeah. That's really cool. And it's cool that they would take you on, and with this project that you're doing, you know, it's not exactly a race, but you're still trying to complete this big thing and raise money for these guys as well. Is there a certain amount of money you're trying to raise for this particular mission?
Yeah, right now the goal I'm trying to get is, you know, 25,000. And, you know, naturally these, you know, as I'm sure you're aware, a lot of people are, these expeditions to Everest, you know, they're not cheap for one. Yeah. I also need to purchase, you know, like you start talking about extreme high altitude, so 8,000-meter suit, boots, what have you, you know, things to survive in the environment. And I'm glad you asked that, because I've actually got quite a few questions from the Mighty Cause page about that. So right now, you know, a lot of the focus is, you know, trying to find support to ensure that this expedition happens and I can get there and I can attempt Everest. And then once I'm there, you know, everything that we can raise and all the support that we can get from this is going, you know, straight to GBR. So hopefully, you know, other guys, you know, in kind of my same situation, like, oh man, I know I've got stuff going on, but I don't want to talk to anybody, but they see something like this, like, man, I really want to be a part of that. And now we can help them, like, okay, cool. Now what are you interested in? And we have that funding, we have that means to allow them to pursue whatever their passion may be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is this going to be like a long-term thing with you and GBR, or is this just like a one-time thing, or how are you looking at this?
No, long-term for sure. Like I said, when I first, you know, they first invited me on, I was like, yeah, you know, that's awesome. That's cool. And then the longer, you know, that I've been with them and the more I've been going through my own stuff, it's like, I kind of look at it, man, like this could be my next step, you know, because eventually, you know, my days in the military will be done, you know, and so, you know, we're constantly thinking, what are we going to do when we get out, what have you. And, you know, it's just an incredible way to, again, keep taking care of, you know, everyone to our left and our right, you know, guys on the team, and still serving a purpose. And what GBR has done, and this idea that they've come up with, it's pretty incredible, man, because we can do anything with it, right? We could have somebody who like, hey, I want to ride dirt bikes, or I want to run ultras, or, you know, maybe I want to be a mountain guy, whatever it is. And we just to offer that support mechanism, you know, and it's nowhere else out there to the extent that it is with GBR, because we're all active duty guys. So we're all still on active duty and still, you know, providing this support. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool, man. Okay. So you're trying to raise $25,000 by when? Is it like early next season, or when are you planning? Is there like a weather season that you're planning on doing this?
My expedition starts, I have to be in Kathmandu April 7th.
April 7th. Okay.
Yep.
So we got a few months. And how long are you going to be there for? Do you have any idea at this point?
Yep. So the expedition is scheduled from 7 April to 5 June. Looking, you know, the past few years, kind of historically, it looks like a lot of the good weather windows are, mid to end of May, kind of somewhere in there. And especially, for me, attempting to do this without the use of supplemental oxygen, I'll definitely need a good amount of time to acclimatize as much as I can, getting up high, coming back down, sleeping low, recovering. So yeah, it'll be a 6 to 8 week expedition for sure.
Yeah. Why did you choose to do it without oxygen? I know that that's like the kind of the badass way that, yeah, I did Everest without oxygen. It's like one extra level of badass, but I've heard other people that have spent some time out there and they're like, yeah, I mean, everybody uses oxygen. It's almost stupid not to. So I'm curious what your thoughts are, why you decided that.
Yeah. And it definitely doesn't have anything to do with that, like, the badass kind of aspect of it. I guess for me, it was a decision I made when Michelle and I went to base camp. The same point I told myself, like, one day I will be back here and I will do the climb. But if I ever have the opportunity to step foot on this mountain, I want to do it naturally. I have to attempt it, with me, with just who I am naturally. Like, do I have the ability to withstand and survive that mountain? It really bugs me when people say, like, conquer, like, oh, I'm going to conquer that mountain, or I conquered that mountain. No, you didn't. That mountain allowed you to survive. Like,
Right.
That's it. Right. So and especially with, very classic mountaineers and, the idealistic or the purest way of climbing, like, there's something to be said about that for sure. But for me personally, it's just testing myself. I want to see if I can withstand it, just kind of as I am, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there is something about doing it naturally that's just a little bit more organic, and you mentioned natural bodybuilding back in your earlier days too. So I'm sensing kind of a theme here. But I've also heard of a lot of guys in the military that are using supplemental testosterone and steroids and stuff like that. Is that something that you've stayed away from over the years?
Yeah. And I mean, especially like when I was lifting heavy and trying to do the natural bodybuilding, like, I absolutely took supplements. I mean, if they sold it at GNC or whatever little supplement shop you could go to, dude, I was taking everything I could get. Like, I'm not saying that I wasn't doing that, because I'm a very hard gainer. I could always kind of lean out fairly easily, but for me to put on weight, I was eating at my heaviest. I was eating 8,000 calories a day, and that's 7 meals a day. Gagging, like, I was like throwing up, coming back in my mouth, like trying to shove so much food down me, and at that time, I think the heaviest I ever got was 220, and so I've always been a very hard gainer. And guys, within my community, like, you have to think too, like I said, I'm 38. Most of the guys are mid 30s. They've been doing this stuff for a very long time. And so whether it's stuff for recovery or, for strength, endurance, what have you, like, I still take, I take supplements, now for sure as well. But one thing I noticed, like, especially in special forces, we were very focused. Even guys that weren't, say, ultra athletes or ultra runners, endurance is always the priority, because we move for hours, we move for miles with heavy weight, and we always, if you're so heavy or you're so big that you're falling out, or you can't do a 10-mile movement over terrain, you can't function, you can't do your job. You're not going to be, supportive to the guys to your left and your right. So even for guys that were lifters, they were also fairly talented with endurance and moving as well.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the Green Beret racing thing and PTSD, I imagine there's got to be sort of a stigma with the special forces guys to go and ask for help, right? To like go to a therapist and put your hand up and say, look, I'm in a pinch. I could use some help outside of myself, because special forces guys seem like the kind of guys who resolve everything on their own, especially internally. And that's kind of the way I grew up believing men should be, and then eventually I get to this place in my life where I personally had to put my hand up and say, look, I need some help. I need to ask help of strangers for, whatever, different stuff in my life. But there's got to be sort of a stigma. It's kind of a bigger deal with you guys though, right?
Yeah. And the stigma I would say is internal, right?
Sure.
Within you personally as an individual, because we absolutely have an incredible support network, right? Within our command, within the regiment, especially now with TBI, PTS, and these issues, the support mechanism is absolutely there. But to your point, you're exactly right. Like a big reason why we have been successful and we are where we are because we are very type A individuals, right? We're very driven. We're very hard mentally. We're very tough and we're adaptable, to these changing environments. And then you can never show weakness, right? In what we do. There is no weakness, anybody appearing to be, less than at the top of their game at any given time, comes back to like what I said earlier about just, the biggest scare or worry is being pulled off of that detachment, not being able to do your job. Oh gosh, if I have this issue, I'm not going to be able to be with my guys, or they're going to think, like, oh, Jason's lost his edge. He doesn't have it anymore, kind of what have you. So it's the stigma I think we place on ourselves, or I know I'm only going to speak for myself, but that's the way I internalize. That's the way I look at it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I'd never, like, my biggest fear is anybody questioning my ability or my loyalty or my commitment, to them. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Well, where can people follow you and find you and support this cause for starters? I know you're on social media and whatnot, but how can people support you?
yeah, I would say first and foremost, like, go to greenberetracing.org, main website there. Just kind of go through it, and like, even before worrying about donating, what have you, read through the story, read through about the history and kind of what we do and why it started, and really kind of familiarize, yourself with the organization. I think it'd help a lot. Yeah, I'm on Instagram, JCMJ. That's my only social media. I don't do social media very well.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely get over, check out Green Beret Racing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, do you have any plans after Everest, or is this like is this what you're looking at right now and you can't look beyond that? Or are you looking
No,
at other races down the road?
yeah, no, I definitely have future ambitions, future plans, both in the ultra scene with races and even non-races kind of events that I've wanted to try to do, and then other mountain objectives for sure. Yeah.
Can you talk about any of those, or are they all under wraps right now?
So one for sure is Nolan's.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Nolan's, dude, like, that's so intriguing because it's so big and it's so scary,
Oh, it's so
and
big.
it's awesome. I've done the course, I've done the route last summer, and wanted to go make an attempt, timing with work, blah blah blah. So definitely Nolan's. I would like to go for the Triple Crown,
Nice.
with destination. And then there's definitely other mountain objectives I want to do, high altitude type stuff. So
Yeah, dude. Awesome. That's like my favorite stuff. Long races, big mountain stuff, Nolan's. Dude, if you attempt Nolan's, give me a shout for sure. I'd love to, at the very least, come out to one of the aid stations and hand off a cheeseburger or something to you. But I'd love to climb the last couple peaks with you or be involved in one way, shape, or form. I love everything
Heck yeah.
about Nolan's, and it's been on my list forever. And one of these days I'll check it off the list, but sounds cool,
Absolutely, man.
man.
Well, I think I'll probably see you. So I'm already registered for the Sangre de Cristo 200
Oh, sweet. Okay.
next year as well.
Hell
So
yeah.
chances are
Nice.
I'll probably see you out there. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
fantastic. Well, yeah, that's on my list this year because I was injured last year. Yeah, you know the story,
Yeah.
but was injured last year, so I just rolled over to next year. So sweet, man. Hopefully we can share some miles together.
Heck yeah, man. Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing this, man. Everybody check out greenberetracing.org and jump into this and just, if you feel a calling, yeah, pitch in a couple bucks or just send Jason a message and give him some encouragement, however you can support this mission, whatever it looks like, but give this guy a shout and follow along. Is there going to be any way we can like literally follow along? Are you going to have like a tracker or anything while you're out there? How does that work?
Yeah. So I'm definitely going to be, active on social media throughout this thing. And that's huge too, right? Like, absolutely understand we're asking, for a lot of money, right? So I'm working some things right now I want to start getting some swag together to start sending back out to folks that are donating and giving us money out of their pocket. Plus, like, it's pretty cool. Like, hey, I believe in this organization. I think they're trying to do something. I'm supporting it. Like, cool. Now I can rep a shirt or stickers or hoodies, whatever. And then during the actual expedition itself, we'll be active on social media for sure. And then I'll also have my inReach going as well. And that's something, I carry with me every time I go to the mountains. And so Michelle, my family, they can track me. So I know that works very well in text and back and forth. So I think what we'll end up doing is having that shareable, and I'll probably have Michelle manage that. But you can actually, real time see how good or maybe not so good I'm faring. I don't know. We'll see.
So with the oxygen thing, and I almost hate bringing this up, but like, what if something happens where you're not
Yeah.
able to summit with no oxygen? Would you go back and try it again with oxygen, or have you even entertained those thoughts in your head, or what do you think?
No, absolutely. And that's a great question. Michelle actually asked me that question night before last, and this is what I told her. So in my head, I cannot tell myself right now that if I can't make it to the summit, I will just throw on supplemental oxygen or like pre-plan, like, hey, if I get to camp 4 that's above 8,000 meters, and I'm struggling or not too fast, I know I'll have oxygen and I can take it. And the reason I say that is because with the way my brain works, if I start giving myself an out now, then I will lose that edge and that competitive focus that I have to try to attempt this, because I do to the best of my ability without actually have been on the ground. Like, I understand how far out there, how unlikely this is. It is a very extreme challenge, and the odds, quite honestly, are not in my favor. I'm aware of that, but I have to be absolutely committed to the process to prepare for this. Now, that being said, I am not naive or a prideful climber by any means, and I will never, when I'm on any mountain or in the backcountry, make any decision that's so prideful or about me that would put somebody else in risk. You see that often, especially there at extreme high altitude, but I've even seen it here on 14ers. Summit fever is a real thing, and that's how people die in the mountains. So I'm very aware of that. But so while I say I have to stay absolutely focused and committed in this attempt without supplemental oxygen, I am also very aware of the support mechanism and the people behind me getting me there. And the overall objective is to bring awareness to GBR and to help out as many soldiers within our regiment as I can. So if it were to come to a point, then it would be a decision that I would make on the ground for successful completion of the overall mission, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely something I've put a lot of thought into it. And, you know, I've thought about a lot of other things, right? You know, like every year people die on that mountain. Like
Sure.
it is very high risk, whether you're doing it with or without oxygen.
Mhm.
And one of my greatest fears right now is being at a point at a very high elevation to where I am moving only for myself to survive, whether that's moving towards the summit or that's coming down, and then possibly seeing another climber that, you know, that could be in a bad way where there needs a rescue to happen.
Right.
To where I'm, you know, with oxygen, that would further enable my abilities to help or to be supportive or, you know, to do something there. And I worry that if that were to happen without supplemental oxygen, you know, I don't know where I would be or how my body would be physically, whether I'd be able to help or not, or if I would just add to the situation. And that's something, you know, as a soldier, as an individual, you know, that's kind of lived the life that I have. You don't leave anybody behind.
Mhm.
You know, that's not a question. That's never a question. So there's a lot, you know, like I said, it is big and it's real, and you know, you just kind of stay focused on, you know, the overall objective, and then kind of do the most you can to prepare for it. And we'll see.
Yeah. You've been here before. You've had big objectives and had to prepare for it, and you've been with the odds against you, you know, and you've pushed through before. So I'm sure you've got this, dude. Like, I look at you and I'm thinking, I wouldn't worry about this guy getting to the top of Everest, but like you said, anything could happen out there. It's like an ultra marathon. Who knows if you're going to make it to 200 at the end of a 240-mile race, because a million things can happen. It's like everything has to go right in order for you to complete the mission. And chances are that might not happen, you know, but overall, Lan, I can't wait to see how you do out there. I mean, I know that you're going to show up as fit physically and mentally as you can be at that particular time. But good luck, man. I mean, what an experience, and what a mission, and what a good cause to support, man. I mean, you're just trying to help other people. And in a lot of ways, that's what it all boils down to, is just service of other people. How can I help other people, whether it's getting to their finish line or helping them in their life through whatever? I commend it, man. I think it's respectable. So Jason, keep doing you, man. I love it.
I appreciate it. And again, thank you very much for having me on. Obviously, I've been following you for a long time, we message back and forth. And I don't know, I'm the guy that listened to podcasts. I never imagined being on one, but you know, it's incredible opportunity, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, listen, dude, it's a true honor to have you on, and thank you for your service. And I'm just so looking forward to seeing what happens early next year. You know, whether the mission's completed or not, man, it's just a huge endeavor, and you just training for the thing and going over there and giving it a shot, man. I mean, it's huge. So best of luck to you guys when you're out there. And we're going to have to get together and go for a run at some point, man, since we're both in Colorado and we haven't officially met. So if you're ever looking at Nolan's, definitely look me up, but we might have to get together and summon a couple peaks between now and then, though.
Absolutely, man.
Cool, brother. We'll stay in touch. Good luck to you guys. And I can't wait, man.
All right. Later.
Cool, brother. All right. Take care.